The NFL draft wrapped up yesterday, and I took a day to digest all the picks and trades, and I come to you now with a concrete grade on how your team did today. Let's do the South. We're going to start from the bottom again, and we're going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I had a bit of a hot take for night one, and it didn't have anything to do with Emeka Egbuka, the player, but the process. So they drafted Emeka Egbuka at 19, wide receiver at Ohio State. And I was like, this team needs defense. What were they let down by last year? Todd Bowles and his defense. And you're going wide receiver after a year ago. You extended Mike Evans. Just this past offseason, you extended. You were able to get back Chris Godwin at a fair price. You saw good things from Jalen McMillan. You're grabbing Emeka Egbuka to be basically split time as a wide receiver 3. And some people were like, well, Chris Godwin, he's still coming back from the injury, and Mike Evans is old. It's like, okay, cool. You could still make a pick for the future that could also impact the now and help increase your chances at making the big game. So I liked the player. Just for me, the process was kind of, I'd rather go with the defense here, but it's a good player. I think I gave it a C that night because, again, those were initial reactions when I did my draft grades. I think I'd probably float with a B because I still look at it as like, man, there were some good pass rushers. Jahad Campbell was still there. I guess there was some real concern with the shoulder. Nonetheless, let's move on to day 2. They double dip at corner. They go Benjamin Morrison, corner at Notre Dame, and then Jacob Parrish, corner at K-State. Sounds like Tyke Smith is going to play more of a traditional safety role. Jacob Parrish, a guy that can work inside and out. I love his little stout build, but he's so feisty. Benjamin Morrison, I mean, this team dipped into a lot of zone last year. Morrison, I think could go either or. He could play man. He can play zone. Because, I mean, remember, Todd Bowles, he's got a lot of exotic blitzes, so we're going to see a good, healthy amount of man coverage as well. Benjamin Morrison only falls down the board, to me, is a first-round pick, but only falls down the board because the 2 hip injuries, the one last year and the other in high school. It's a lot of hip injuries for a young corner. And, man, if you saw him get the call and how grateful he was, that it just warmed your heart. Just sitting there, thank you for believing in me. Because it's like, dude, this is such a good player. Hips be darned, dude. Hips be darned. Golly. But I like their process. I get it with Jabil Dean. He's either good or hurt. And unfortunately, more recently, it's been hurt. They might try to get off his contract, so you're going to be looking for that heir apparent next to Zion McCollum. So I like it. I'm still sitting here. I'm like, okay, when are they going to get pass rush? Because Hassan Reddick's only there for a year. I guess you're still developing Chris Broswell. And obviously you got Yaya. But then they go David Walker early on. I get it. He's 25. He is a really good DPR. Like, if you don't know what that means, designated pass rush only. That's what he does and what he does well. He got after it at the Senior Bowl. I had him much higher on my board. They get him here. That's really good value. Let's take a look. And they only had 6 picks in this draft. And they get Elijah Roberts, which I thought was really good value. I had him at 111 on my board. They get him at 157. This kind of feels like, okay, Logan Hall, we might be trying to find someone to replace your role. Then they grab Tez Johnson at 235, which, okay, he didn't test out that well. He's very undersized, but golly, you watch him at Oregon, but you watch him in the Senior Bowl. Just consistently created separation. I had him at 139 on my big board. He goes at 239. This is the thing. The Bucs drafted exceptionally well, and a lot of players that I like. I could argue with the process in round 1. They do come back. They do get some edge help. And there's not one pick I dislike here. So I'm going to give it an A. Okay, I might be scratching my head a little bit with Emeka Egbuka. And again, you could You could try to talk yourself into it, but I think that would have been still better served with the defense. Again, a defense that let this team down last year. No arguing. Really good player. That's all they did. Draft really good players. So I'm not mad at it. Let's jump to the New Orleans Saints, who took Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle, out of Texas in the first round. That was the right selection. They grabbed some offensive help along the trenches. Could be the heir apparent to Trevor Pennon. Maybe you start Banks at guard right off the bat. We'll find out. Great pick. Tyler Shuck. So this might be the one pick where I'm like, oh, this was much higher than where I had Shuck. To be fair, I had guys like Jalen Milroe, Whittiers, who went way late, and obviously Tyler Shuck and Will Howard. They were all they were all within the span of 10 picks or 10 spots on my big board, because I was just like, I don't really have a great feeling of maybe who's better than who. I'm just going to stack them all in the same spot. So Shuck, this was a little bit higher than where I had him on my board. I understand, but I can wrap my head around this pick. Hear me out. He's older. You could legit throw him out there right now. And worst case scenario, you suck. You have a top 5 pick. You grab Doug's boy, Garrett Nussmeier, in next year's draft class. And you didn't trade up for Tyler Shuck. You sat back at pick 40. You let the draft come to you, and you took him there. So I'm not really offended with this pick, and you're swinging it at the most vital position on an NFL roster, quarterback. Vernon Broughton, this was a little early for me, but I like the tools with him. Became a first-time starter, or a full-year starter for the first time this year, but Texas has been pumping out insane defensive line talent. He got stuck in the rotation last couple of years, so I'm fine with the pick. Jonas Sanker. The only really nitpick I have with Sanker, it's not even about him. I think he's one of the best box safeties in this class. You pay Justin Reed. I mean, the value's there. They picked him at 93. I had him at 96, so it's good value. Oh, I love the Danny Stutzman pick. He might not have a lot of splash plays and coverage, but he's always around the ball carrier. You get him at 112. He was at 69 on my big board. Nice. Quincy Riley was another cat that I was pretty high on. They grabbed him at 131. I had him at 118. I love the competitiveness, the feistiness to him. In the 6th round, Devin Neal, my boy. I've been covering Devin Neal for the better part of 2.5 years. Talking about how much I just love this dude's tape. And he might not be the best athlete, but I think he comes in there with literally no risk. You get him at 184. I had him at 113 on my big board. So you get really good value for just a good football player. Maliki, tight end out of UCLA. Coming here. I guess they had to get a tight end. I don't mind it. It's 248. Fadil Diggs, much higher on my board. I had him at 166. They get him at 254. He legitimately is a DPR. Come on the field, pin your ears back, and get after the quarterback. So there was a lot to like here. The question comes down to, like, things got a little hairy with Tyler Shuck and Vernon Broughton taken higher than than where I had them. But I'm not offended by this draft, and there's a lot of players I like. So I'm gonna go with a B grade. I feel like that's pretty fair. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers, who in the first round selected Tetaroa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. I would have liked if they got a guy with a bit better speed, but I'm not going to argue with this pick because Tet was a top 5 prospect for me in this class. You get him at 8. I mean, some people will be like, well, Xavier Legette, he ran a 4.39. He's got speed. Well, I'm talking about more, I guess, more quicks on the short to intermediate. A little bit something more in the quick game. With Legette, you're getting more of a launch strider. And let me just say his name one more time. Legette. Freaking love Xavier Legette. But I don't mind. Help Bryce Young. Help your franchise quarterback. Make sure he doesn't look like he did it at the beginning of the year. Then they grabbed Nick Gordon. They had a big pick swap with I think it was the Denver Broncos, where they were pick swapping seconds, thirds, and fourth round picks. So to me, I look at it and it was like, okay, this is for the most part a pretty fair trade. They're just swapping same round picks. And it's not like it was like massive trade backs either. So ton of pick swaps there. And they get Nick Gordon, who I had at 36 on my big board. They get him at 51. They need edge desperately. I love it. I mean, they need edge so desperately that they double dipped. They actually had to move up to get pick 77 because they had pick 85. And it only cost them a 5th rounder. And they get Princely Umami out of Ole Miss. I had him at 49 on my big board. They get him at 77. They're hitting this draft out of the park. Some people will question the Trevor Etienne selection. I don't. Yeah, they got Chuba Hubbard. They brought in Rico Dottle. Jonathan Brooks is getting healthy. That was a run back they traded up for, but he's coming off a 2nd consecutive ACL injury. But Etienne is lightning in a bottle. He's not going to be someone that is going to get a ton of touches. He can do different things for you, whether it's as a pass catcher or maybe in the return game. You're kind of hoping maybe a better Blackshear. That's what I'm kind of thinking. So I don't mind them going in on the running back class. They did address safety with Lathan Ransom, as long as he's not made of glass anymore, a guy with an extensive injury history. Went on the field as a starter. He is exceptionally good. He knows how to use his hands discreetly and be sticky in man coverage. But he also plays with a nasty demeanor. He can be a hard hitter. So I like the pickup there of Ransom. Cam Jackson, we're in the 5th. This might be rich for my taste, but there's not many true nose tackles in the draft year after year. There were quite a few in this class, but a lot of them were off the board. So I get going after a guy like Cam Jackson. I understand it. Mitchell Evans, you get to not necessarily reunite, but now you got former Notre Dame alums playing that tight end position. Mitchell Evans, more of a traditional tight end compared to Tommy Tremble, who I think is just more versatile and a better athlete. But I don't mind the Evans pick. I think, where did I have him? Okay, I had him about a little further down, but not much. Jimmy Horn Jr., this was exactly about the range I had him. 206, he goes at 208. I was talking about how I would like to see them get a speedy wide receiver in the quick game. Jimmy Horn can be that, but also a vertical speedster from the slot. I think I loved everything they did. Even with Cam Jackson, the pick I didn't like, I understood it was a 5th round pick. Cool. This is one of my A+ grades. I think the Panthers knocked it out of the water. I hope I didn't call them the Jags, because I have a tendency of confusing my kitty teams. I'm sorry. But Panthers had a banger draft. There is one more team in this division, and they are a bit more controversial in terms of what they did. And it has not. And some people will think I'm referring to James Pierce being controversial. No, I'm a little cross about trading away a 1st round pick next year. But let's talk about what they did first. Jalen Walker, for much of the draft community, people had him tabbed as a top 10 player in this class. I was on the lower end of that. I think he was 18 on my big board. He ends up going here at 15. He makes it to him. A lot of people didn't think he would be available. And This is kind of cool because Kaden Ellis is in the final year of his deal, I believe. And if you want to use Walker, if that's your idea, to use him as a chess piece after Ellis, I don't think that's crazy. Or you could just develop him to be a full-time pass rusher. It's one of two things. But with them moving up and getting James Pierce, which, by the way, the trade is the big reason I had some hesitancy with this, because they're moving from 46 to 26, right? And it cost them a lot. It cost them a first rounder next year. I mean, if we want to go specifically in, okay, if we're specifically talking about the trade value, essentially the Rams were like, here, take our first this year, we'll take your first next year. But the Falcons turned pick 46 into pick like what, 100, 101? Dog water. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Not a fan. Just not a fan. But I get going up and getting a guy who seemingly would be a top 10 player if teams weren't worried about him being a big douche. That's kind of the thing. But they went out and addressed the pass rush. Golly gee. I'm glad that they did it. I like the players involved. A little on the fritz about the trade, but we got to the third round and they ended up having to move up from 101 to 96. It only cost them a fifth. It's fine. I think it's Xavier Watts, who is arguably a top 50 player, at least for me, to pair him up with Jesse Bates. And now I look in hindsight, it's like, well, you know what? Screw that first rounder. We just renovated this defense. I'm happy. They grabbed Billy Bowman early in the fourth. Another safety. They probably maybe view him more as a slot, which I'm a little scared about. He's got some deficiencies in the run game. Those slot corners are going to be asked to do a lot more when it comes to the run game. So I don't know if I love that, but I like the player quite a bit. Jack Nelson was really good value at 218. I think I've had him just inside my top 200. So they grab a developmental tackle maybe for the future for Jake Matthews. So at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, sure, I hate that trade, but these first 3 picks are so quality. I think just because of the trade, it's hard to give it an A because, again, it sucks giving up a future first rounder. A lot of this weighs on how James Pierce ends up being. Does he end up being the player a lot of people think he can be? Hopefully. So as it stands right now, I'm going to give him a B+. I feel like that is a fair grade for the Atlanta Falcons.